According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 43.8 million, or 18.5% of U.S. adults suffer from mental illness in any given year. Today I'll be informing you about mental illness. The purpose of this is for you to gain a greater understanding of what so many Americans are facing. Mental illness can affect your coworkers, family, friends, and even yourself. Most people have heard of anxiety disorders, like social anxiety disorder and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Most people have also heard of mood disorders such as bipolarism and depression. But many don't know about less common disorders such as psychotic disorders, impulse control disorders, and personality disorders. My first main point is to inform you about psychotic disorders. According to the National Institute of Mental Health website, people with psychotic disorders have lost touch with reality. They have psychotic episodes where they exhibit many symptoms. Two of the main symptoms are delusions and hallucinations. Hallucinations are when you sense something that other people can't sense, like seeing numbers dancing along the wall that nobody else can see. Delusions are whenever you have false beliefs about your world, such as the fact that everyone's out to get you or the government is watching you. Some other symptoms are trouble sleeping, troubles with relationships, lack of motivation, depression, and difficulty functioning in your everyday life. One example that you may have heard of a psychotic disorder is schizophrenia. My next main point is to inform you about impulse control disorders. Published in Psychiatric Times on June 1st, 2016, the article Impulse Control Disorders, Clinical Characteristics and Pharmacological Management tells us that impulse control disorders, the people who have them have difficulties at work and in relationships due to a lack of control over impulses. Most people who have impulse control disorders have trouble with one particular impulse. Some examples of this are pathological gambling, pyromania, which is the inability to control the impulse to set fires, kleptomania, which is stealing things that you don't need, skin picking, and trichotillomania, which is pulling out your hair until you have significant hair loss or balding. And these things, these impulses, have significant harm on this person's life, but they continue to do it because they have no control or they like the pleasure from doing this behavior. My third main point is to inform you about personality disorders. According to the National Institute of Health's website, Medline Plus, last updated June 20th, 2016, personality disorders are characterized by, and I quote, long-term patterns of thoughts and behaviors that are unhealthy and inflexible. That means their thoughts are irrational and their behaviors are bad for them, but they'll continue to do them. No one can convince them otherwise. Personality disorders, these people that have them, they have troubles in all of their relationships, or nearly all of them. They also have trouble dealing with stress that leads to problems at work. Some examples of personality disorders are antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. Psychopathy is within the spectrum of antisocial personality disorder. And if you've heard of psychopaths, they are characterized by a lack of feeling and empathy for others. According to the Mayo Clinic staff on mayoclinic.org, people with antisocial personality disorder have a lack of right and wrong, they have no moral compass, they ignore the rights and feelings of others, and they often manipulate and treat others poorly. And whenever they do this, they have no guilt or remorse for their actions. Most people with antisocial personality disorder, you will see in their behavior crime or abuse of drugs or alcohol. So I've given you a look at some of the lesser known mental illnesses and less common mental illnesses that plague members of this country's society, including psychotic disorders, impulse control disorders, and personality disorders. Having a basic understanding of mental illness is important because it affects so many people in our country. You should inform yourself if you still don't quite understand what mental illness is, or if you think that a loved one may be suffering from a mental illness. I'd like to add that getting help is nothing to be ashamed of, and it is imperative if you or a loved one is facing suicidal thoughts. Thank you for listening, and stay informed.